Hi, Veli.
Great. Jacques, how are
Finally,
you?
I'm good.
Finally. I think
Right.
I think the unsung, a lot of people don't know this with this platform that my wife is my IT department. So thanks to her, we now live. We just sorry, we just had a technical difficulty, but I'm glad that she managed to think fast.
Yeah, 100%. No, she's done a great job, eh?
No, thank you for joining us. So, I mean, as you know, this is just a platform where creatives talk. We talk about the industry. It's something that we started for lockdown and then we ended it. But when we ended it, we had so many people just ask us, why did you end it? We were learning so much. So we decided to have a season two of it, which has been a very good one. So thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate that. And maybe let's start with Wimpy. When researching Wimpy, the history of Wimpy, it's a very interesting story. Maybe it would be beneficial if you told the people who are watching from your perspective. Tell us a bit more about Wimpy and the brand.
Gosh, Veli, yeah, I mean, Wimpy's been part of the South African fabric for almost 60 years now. It's been around in the country. So very much proudly South African brand that's very much homegrown. And as you know, we're very famous for our breakfasts. And over the last couple of years, we've also become really famous for our burgers and grills. So customers really love that. And we've also, over the years, expanded into other territories. So we've got quite a big footprint into Sub-Saharan Africa. And then we also have quite a big footprint in the UK, believe it or not. We've got a really sizable and very healthy business in the UK. But very much proudly South African brand. And one of the things that I love about the brand is that it really has evolved over the years with South Africa and the South African society. And if you look at some of the past creative and the work that's been done over the years, it really reflects that our society and demographics and just consumers have changed over the years. I think what is really great though is we have our iconic products, breakfast, our relish that people love, that has been constant over the years, and with our patties, we also have a recipe that is a big secret no one else knows, and in our patties. So it really is amazing to be part and driving a brand that is so South African and has been over since its inception of almost 60 years now. So
Wow.
very, very proud of the brand, and I think what's also very encouraging is how over the years, we've become involved with your partners like Reach for a Dream, Slip a Week, and really engaging with society and community in a way that's relevant, and that works for us. We are a family brand. We've always been a family brand. I think one of the great things about us is that, we welcome kids. Kids can come and have their milkshakes, spill it everywhere, right now, play in our kiddies' play areas. But it really is a place where families can feel comfortable bringing their kids. And, ironically, it's also a place where business people come and have breakfast, have a quick meeting, have a quick coffee. So it really is a brand that caters for all South Africans, all walks of life. Whether you walk in there with your gown and your slippers, or whether you're walking in there with your suit and your laptop, people don't. People feel really comfortable to do that. So it's awesome to be part of a brand like that.
So Jacques, you say something very interesting, and we had the marketing manager of KFC here. We've had Doug from Nando's. We've had Doug from Nando's, and everyone seems to be talking about this South Africanness. I think that's a space where all food brands kind of, no one is saying we are proudly American and that's the way we are. Even a brand that is founded in Kentucky is saying, no, we are a very South African brand. What do you think that is with restaurants and this positioning and claiming of South Africanness? Why are all food brands kind of like migrating to that positioning?
So, Veli, I think it's an interesting point, and certainly, I can speak from Wimpy's perspective, and I think what is really key is, and some of the brands you mentioned are all very iconic brands, and like you say, even though a lot of them have potentially originated overseas, they've been part of the fabric of South Africa for so many years. And I think it really is their proposition within our market that is potentially slightly different, being a family brand versus a brand that caters for a more younger male market, and those are some of the nuances between the different brands, all very much South African. And obviously Nando's being born in, within South Africa, together with the likes of Wimpy. This is where we were born. The likes of KFC, they've been around for many, many years, and because of that, have been part of society and the fabric of who we are as a country. I think what differentiates Wimpy specifically is the fact that this is where we were born. And interestingly enough, we work together very closely with our other markets and the UK, but it works slightly differently because in our instance, those markets look at South Africa and what we do, and we pretty much lead the thought leadership within marketing, how we talk to consumers, how we behave as a brand. So those markets would lend from us versus the other way around, where you could be within a brand whose head office is elsewhere. But I think in terms of South Africans, it really is how consumers see the brands, right? I mean, I think in all three the brands you've mentioned, consumers will tell you they're South African brands. So the history might be slightly different, but it really comes down to how consumers see us. And in all three instances, we all very much South African, and we all have our own niches that we cater for within our market context. So if you ask me, I think it really is up to how consumers see us. And I think why it's so important is over the last couple of years, there really has been a sense of pride and in being South African, being homegrown, and really being a brand that supports local industries, local businesses, and that has become really important. So irrelevant where brand originated, if that's the role that it plays within our society and how consumers see us, then absolutely, that's it's very much something that we as
it's an open space. Now Jacques, over the years, I mean, you are 60 years old. How have you, as someone who is heading up the marketing, reacted to new entrants? There's been from little coffee shops on the side, this trend of like side cafes that almost play in your space, to the bigger entrants that have come into the market. As someone who has been in the market and stood the test of time, what are some of the things that you've done to keep relevant in a very trendy society now? People like to, there's the Instagram lifestyle, people like going to certain places, there's new places. How have you maintained that throughout the years, and kept top of mind on the consumer?
So Veli, the number one thing that we've done is be true to who we are and never steering away from that. So our positioning in the markets being about families and associated things that we own or attributes, like for example the road trip. Like there's nothing like a South African road trip without Wimpy, right? And those are one example of the assets that we've built over the last 50, 60 years, and and it's become ingrained in who we are. And so,
Yeah.
it really is about being consistent, staying true to who we are as a brand, and not steering away from that. But so being true to who we are, but at the same time evolving as consumers evolve in terms of how we communicate, how we show up as a brand, which is crucial. So there's two things. There's absolutely being crystal clear around who you are, who we are, in our position, and at the same time evolving how we speak to consumers and how we show up in a way that's relevant. And it really is about consistency, hey Veli. I mean, I think, and you'll appreciate this being in the marketing space. It's always really sexy when you start on a new brand or there's a new marketing director and you come in and you now need to change everything, right? Because now you need to show your
make your mark.
Exactly, right? But actually, the real truth of the matter is consistency. So actually, the more true to who you stay and what you've built over the last number of years is what will set you up for the future, right? So so sometimes it's about not sometimes, it absolutely is about that consistency, but at the same time making sure that the way that translates from a consumer perspective is authentic and real and resonates with the market.
Now, one thing that you guys have done well, and I think you can teach a lot of other brands how it's done, is the partnerships. When I think of Engine, I think of Wimpy. You guys have built that partnership over the years, and I think as brands react to COVID and all the stuff that is happening, partnerships and brand partnerships become a very big thing. What are some of the lessons you can share on the Engine partnership? Because I think in the partnership landscape, it's a very, very strong partnership that is with your brand. I mean, what can you share about that partnership? What makes it special, and what has made it so successful?
So, Veli, it's as a brand, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in doing really well is this notion of partnerships, and Engine being an absolute pillar of that. And there's numerous others which I'll chat about later, which is our franchisees, our partnerships with Reach for a Dream. But Engine, we see ourselves as a and our brand positioning is very much about a family and the extension of that. So, and that is what Engine is for us. They're part of the Wimpy family. They have been part of the Wimpy family for since the inception. And the way we treat that is really in the true sense of partnership. So it's about joint strategizing. It's about really being in each other's close proximity, joint meetings, joint plans, and treating it as a true partnership and not just something that is transactional, right? Because that's always just about the rands and the cents and actually quite superficial. When it comes to Engine and our other partnerships, there's a level of authenticity that we hold dear to our hearts, because that's who we are as a brand, and also how we treat our partners like Engine. So we would get together. We would, like I said, we would have joint strategy sessions, joint planning sessions, and also finding this aligning, right? Because we are very closely aligned from a brand's point of view, but it's also about finding those nuances and those similarities and really working hard at those to make sure that when we show up in terms of consumer, it makes absolute sense. And it's also about the road trip, and in both instances that road trip is crucial for both brands, right? So it's about understanding that and what we as Wimpy can offer within that environment, and also what Engine offers within that environment. So we've done, over the last number of years, we've done joint TV campaigns. Every year we do summer campaigns, we do Easter campaigns. So it really also, it's about that getting together, creating together, as opposed to the one, doing something and the other brand doing something else, and then hopefully at some point the two shall meet. It's co-creation. That's effectively what it is.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And that's how we manage it. Yeah.
Now, Jacques, you guys have done some iconic communication over the years. In your perspective, what makes good work? What is good work? When you say, "Oh, that's a good piece of work," what is that?
The number one thing is how it resonates with your positioning. So, how closely is it aligned to who you are as a brand? Firstly, and secondly, as a consumer, how do I relate to that? Does it put a smile on my face when I look at that? Do I go, yeah, I get that. I can relate to that. And often when we have reviews with Fox, and the creative guys come and they present to us, and what I generally look at, and I look at everyone around the room, and the minute that a creative has hit on a genuine insight, right, that spans across humans, it spans across demographics, age, et cetera, you can immediately pick it up in the audience. You can immediately see, right, people are relating to this, and that is when I know we've got something, we've got magic. And so it's about that human insights, that authenticity, and then how that comes together with who you are as a brand. I think so often, not often, I mean, given where we are as a country and brands going through, COVID and all those, COVID, which is the biggest challenge that we have today, is it's quite easy to slip into, insights that tend to be related to COVID or quite heavy. And that's another area where the minute I see that, I go, it's an insight, but it's not necessarily something that we want to relate to as consumers. We know it's there. We know what's going on. But as our role as brands, and particularly Wimpy, we aren't a heavy, serious brand. We are about light-hearted moments where we can really resonate as consumers. And when you go home and you've got that granny who's always asking you, when are you getting married? And you've got the uncle that's annoying in the corner because he's trying to watch soccer. Those are the insights that we can all relate to as South Africans, and that's always what I look for. So often it's really subtle, Veli. It really is about, there's something here. There's something that we can all relate to, and I can see people around the table going, yeah, this is funny. And it's not funny because it's slapstick funny. It's funny because it's real insight that we can all relate to.
No, that's good. And I mean, we're going to get to COVID, but there's something interesting because you talked about agency-client relationships. Now, here's a question for you. What makes you a good client? What makes a good client? And there's a lot of people that listen on the client side. From your perspective, what makes a good client?
Is that a trick question, Veli?
I said I'll take you there.
No, so in all honesty, Veli, I mean, I can just I can speak for how we work as a business and how us as a marketing team on Wimpy work with our agency partners, and it comes back to this whole notion of partnership, which is what I spoke to you when we chatted about Engine. So the way that we treat Engine and the way that we treat our franchisees is exactly the way the approach that I have and my team has with all of our agency partners. Whether you're above the line, below the line, whether you're a point of sale supplier, whether you're an activations agency, you are a partner to us as a brand. And so it's not a transactional relationship. It's not I'm writing you a brief, brief goes into the system. In 2 weeks' time, I'm now expecting this, this bells and whistles thing.
Yeah.
So I put a brief in, and guess what? I work with you as an agency to put that brief together. We have a couple of issue sessions, which is literally just, throwing a couple of ideas out.
Jamming, yeah.
Where you are, where are you as from a creative point of view? And by the time we get to, the presentation, we've all bought into the process. We've all bought into the idea. So what makes a great agency relationship and agency, any agency relationship is that sense of what you bring to the brand, the business is exceptionally valuable, and there's no idea is a bad idea. So it's mutual respect and treating you as an extended, you're part of the family ultimately. And that is in my view, a key pillar to making a great agency relationship with any brand work. And I think, so many brands actually fall into the trap where they see it as a transactional relationship. They see it as one where, well, the agency gets paid, so just get on and do your job. Not about that. Veli, the minute when I know my job is done as a head of a brand is the minute that I put a brief into an agency and the creatives are fighting over my brief because they all want to work on my brief. That is when I know that job is done, because the work that I'll get out of that is going to be amazing, because I treat you as a family member, as an extension of the brand, and make you jointly responsible. And I think that's another key factor of how myself and my team work with agencies is we have joint KPIs, we have joint targets, business targets that we're all responsible for, and I play open cards with all the partners, and we tackle it together, good or bad, and I think honesty is crucial, and also just the way the way that we interact. I've got a very set way that myself and my team will treat our partners, and it is with the utmost respect for what the creatives do, what agencies do, because it's then when the real magic happens, when it's good.
You see, it was easy. You're a good client. Those are all the right things.
Thanks, Veli.
Those are all the right things. So January hits, we fresh from the holiday. We've got all these plans, we've got the year planned out, everything, quarterly, we're presenting strategy. And then COVID hits, and when COVID hits, where were you? What did you think? Did you think it would impact you, or was this thing far away in China? Take us back to when COVID became a reality in your daily life, and as something that affects the Wimpy brand.
So Veli, initially when it first started at the beginning of the year, it very much was, something that was, it's somewhere else, it's never, it's not going to materialize. It's not going to become a reality for where we are as a country. Certainly when it first broke out in China, it just sounded like the most bizarre thing when it first broke, and we, from a business point of view, would just, we carried on. We thought, well, surely it'll be contained, and surely if it does spread, there'll be some vaccine, or, we'll get over it like we did SARS and everything else. And so I would say, the first couple of weeks into COVID, as it started spreading, there was a sense of, okay, this is slightly different, but right now all we have is our plans and what we've agreed, and that's what we need to do, and it was actually it was right at the beginning of our financial year, which is, beginning of March. And so, so we were literally in the moment. We were, I was about to fly. It was a Monday morning to start our regional presentations to the franchisees to take them through what our brand plans are for the year. And everything was booked. Presentations were done. AVs were done. We had this amazing thing. It was really going to be this extravaganza of, we have this amazing plan to share with the network, right? And Sunday evening, we were ready to jump on a plane that Monday morning, and we were told, well, sorry, all travel's been put on hold. We're not going to go on conference anymore. So
it's the lockdown.
Well, 100%. Well, actually, that was prior to lockdown.
Okay.
It was probably about 2 weeks before, when the plan was going up to go. Rather not travel. It's not not safe. Potentially.
So
that was the first big spanner in the works. I mean, Veli, you would appreciate the amount of work that goes into going to present plans to 460 franchisees. It's massive. And that was all just literally put on hold. At that point, we still, as a business, didn't quite know what was coming. And so we, up until the point that lockdown happened, we pretty much ran with our plans the way we thought it would, actually materialize. And then lockdown happened. And, the first thing we had to do was, you're looking at our numbers to go, what are the implications of this? And then, the first thing you start doing is to start guessing, I guess, how long this will be, and what potential impact on the numbers will be over the next couple of months. And then from that, redrafting the plans, right? Which is what we did. And then the more that effectively got extended, the more we realized that actually trying to plan for the future right now is a fruitless point. I mean, there's just no point to do that. All we have right now is to listen to consumers, to be really close to what's going on out there, and to react very quickly. But to react. Because it was the most frustrating thing. And I mean, again, you'd appreciate this. As marketers, we love planning, right? I mean, that's what I love.
That's what we do.
And there's timelines, and there's deadlines, and there's project plans. And then all of a sudden, this thing comes along and says, okay, hang on, throw out everything that you know about marketing, all plans, all of that. Just throw it out completely, because it doesn't exist anymore. There's no new plan, and so post that initial lockdown, that is literally what we've been doing, is to go, reacting, to what consumers are telling us, doing what is happening in terms of delivery, takeaways, and how the consumer behavior started to change, right? So making sure that as a brand, we evolve and change really quickly with that, because I think, and over the last number of years, in some of my previous lives, I've been in other interesting situations, also crises, obviously nothing to this extent, certainly many other crises. And the one thing that I've learned over the last number of years in a situation like this is to do something. A lot of brands are, they kind of are in shock, and typically what then happens is either they don't do anything, and they're almost paralyzed. And a lot of them do something. And when brands tend to react in a moment of crises, the other big thing learning is that, there's never a right or wrong. So what is wrong is doing nothing. Right, that is the one sure thing that's going to get you in hot water, no matter what the crisis is. So sit back and do nothing. Reacting in a situation and responding best you can to the facts that you have available to you is the best mode of operandi in any kind of crisis. And that's very much how we've had to manage over the last couple of weeks and months during lockdown, is to really respond to the needs of our consumers and to fundamentally rethink and relook at our plans and really make the new environment work in our favor. That's still in line with who we are as a brand, but understanding that initially in lockdown we couldn't trade in terms of sit down, but we could do deliveries, and we could do initially it was only deliveries, and then it evolved into takeaways, and then lastly it evolved into full-on sit-down opening. With each of the phases came its different challenges, because again it required of us to very quickly talk to consumers. So firstly saying, we open for delivery, or we open for takeaway, or we open for sit-down. And making sure that from an operational perspective, all of those boxes are ticked, right? So we are ready from a hygiene and safety perspective to serve customers coming into our restaurants to sit down again. And so through every one of those phases, it required us to be very agile and to respond immediately, because the announcement would come out on one day, and then 2 days later it would be live. So we react really quickly, and that was the only sure thing that we had, Veli, going into lockdown, is knowing that it will start opening up in phases. So that was the one thing that we could plan for up front. Which allowed us to activate and get that off the ground the minute that the government said
things did happen.
Takeaways on our allowed. But it is really, key is really just responding, hey, and not sitting back. And it's uncomfortable for marketers, because we love a plan.
we were planning, Now that a lot of people are also now planning for budgets. What does that do to your budget planning, not for now, but for the future? How do you plan for 2021? I know a lot of brands are looking at, how do they, when it does eventually open, where do they start spending? A lot of people think it's now, they need something on digital, but now everyone is thinking digital. So even that market space is starting to be crowded, So what happens to budgets? What happened to your budgets and budgets going for the future? Where are you spending more? Is there a change? Are you spending more on digital, or is it still kind of the same type of pillars that you would spend on anyway? What happens to budget as a result of COVID?
So Veli, it's been interesting. So I think let me tackle the budget question first. So obviously the balance of this year and the way that we're treating it is very much as the business is growing, we watch what's happening with turnovers, and we adjust budgets accordingly, which again is it doesn't allow much time to forward plan, which is okay, because it's a mindset that we've had to wrap our heads around over the last couple of weeks, and that's pretty much how we're managing the rest of the year to go. It's a watch and see approach. As things change, we respond, and as our business grows, as consumers come back into our restaurants, we devise and readjust our budgets accordingly, right? So for the balance of this year, it's very much a wait and see approach to go. We will respond as consumer behavior starts shifting again back to where it was. When we look forward to next year, it very much is a conservative approach, Veli. We will have to see where we net off, probably October, November this year. We are planning again, very much conservatively going into next year. But conservative is, I guess, the key, right? We're not expecting the same kind of levels. which we had, last year or the year before, but certainly not far off from that. So that's just in terms of budgets. The rest of the year, it's a wait and see approach. Next year, it's conservative, but I would say probably in line with where we were a year or two ago anyway. So that's how we looking into our next fiscal, which is beginning of March next year. And then in terms of our the media, so I think the one thing I've learned and my team have learned through the last couple of weeks is there's things that is part of your brand DNA that we know. I know what works for us as a brand. So I know there's certain touch points that I absolutely can't do without. So, and Frank, I mean, TV, it's important. It works. So that will continue to be important in our lives. The digital journey has accelerated, to say the least, over the couple of weeks. And I'm really pleased about that, because as a brand, we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years in that space. I think what the last couple of weeks have taught us is to really quickly adapt to the digital environment in a way that we've never done before, from a brand. So all of a sudden, we find ourselves in this really interesting dynamic where it's a mix of mediums more traditional mediums that we know works, and then other mediums, like the likes of radio, print, those type of mediums where the way we use it has changed. And certainly, the amounts that we use within that space has also changed dramatically. Within the digital space, I mean, we've shifted a huge amount of focus into that area, and with a huge, a big success over the last couple of weeks. And again, it's a combination of our traditional media firing together with digital media at the same time. And when they come together, that's when we see real magic happening. I think, digital on its own or TV on its own, or we dead in the water. And there were a period where, we tried different iterations of what is working in this new environment that we find ourselves in. People are at home. They're watching a lot more TV, but even their TV consumption has changed. They're watching news, and so the type of programming they're watching is different. So we've also had to adapt how we buy media in terms of more traditional mediums, and then in terms of digital, it's big, and we're breaking on Monday with our new slipper week. It's normally we would run a slipper day campaign over this period. Yes. Traditionally, it's been very quite. You buy a wristband, you go into store, you show your wristband with your slippers, and you get a free coffee at any Wimpy, right? So, and that's how it worked over the last, 6 years that we've had a partnership with Reach for a Dream. This year, we find ourselves in a really interesting space where we actually, when we started devising Slipper Day and Slipper, Reach for a Dream support this year, we said, it's really difficult to see how many people will actually come into our restaurants. So to rely on a mechanic where somebody's going to buy a wristband in a restaurant or at a discount and then come into our restaurants to get a coffee, we probably will not have chances of success is not that great, because we know people are reluctant to go out. So the whole platform has shifted onto a digital, within a digital space where we will be running a virtual slipper week. So it will be all online, all within a digital space, where we've put quite substantial, paid media behind it from a digital perspective. And so the entire campaign, where in the past it would rely on radio, a very traditional type of mediums to drive the messaging, this year it's all online. It's all digital. And so we've had to take very traditional kind of initiatives and evolve them in a way that is relevant within the digital space, and that will connect with consumers within that environment. So certainly, we've seen really great successes coming out of digital, and also just putting a lot more focus within that space over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Now I bought fish and chips for my mom, and I'm convinced I probably was the most difficult fish and chips owner in the country, because it was in rural Natal, a place called Manguzi, and I spent my days emailing the marketing, complaining about support, complaining about, you don't understand my market. I remember they introduced a breakfast menu for fish and chips. And I wrote this long letter about how breakfast won't work because we don't have a breakfast culture. Now, I know, especially in the rural areas, like the egg and bacon in where I come from, it's, people eat a loaf of bread and fish and 2-liter Coke.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. Now, I see it with a lot of the brands that we manage, that they've moved from like outward communicating to inward communication. We've got brands like Caltex as a brand, where now they're looking at the garage owners. How important has that been for you? Because I know that the people that own franchises don't want to hear about digital. They want people in the restaurant, and you tell them about a virtual thing. To them, it's, that's happening elsewhere. I'm in Ermelo. I want people in Ermelo to come to my Wimpy. Don't tell me about virtual internet stuff, and how have you, how have you managed the owners of Wimpy? Because I think, we spend something like 800,000 on a franchise, and we also realized that the margins were so low. You had to count everything, because when you buy into a franchise, you think you're going to make all this money, and you only realize that the margins are, and that leads to frustration. And the only people you blame is marketing. Give me more material. You guys, I haven't seen a TV ad. How are you dealing with that pressure? Because I know it's real, because I was responsible for it.
Veli, listen, I think you've got some real insight into my life every day. So it's interesting, and I think when it comes to more traditional type of advertising, like your billboards and your TV, it's easier for the business owners. It's in their faces. They're watching TV. Their media consumption tend to be more traditional media consumption. And with us shifting into such a big digital space, there was a couple of things that I did with the business owners. And the first one is around education. So, one of the initial things that I kept on getting from our franchisees were, but I'm not seeing these Facebook ads. I'm not seeing these things on Instagram. Why am I not seeing it? You're saying that we're spending all this money on digital, but we don't see it. And then it's a process about, saying, well, actually, I'm happy that you don't see it, because you're not our target market, right? So it's about taking the partners and the franchisees on the journey with you. So, and often it's as simple as, showing visuals. Look, this is where Wimpy featured in, News 24 today, or, this is where we were on this particular programmatic banner, or this was our Facebook post. And literally sharing with them a weekly report of, our posts, from a social media perspective, showing actual examples of what we've put out there. And another interesting tool is this whole, we've used quite a bit of geo targeting as well, which works really well, particularly when you speak about kind of more outlying areas and outlying stores where, I've had conversations with business owners where the minute that we've switched that on, they've seen an increase in footfall into their restaurants. So being very laser sharp around how we target has really worked very well. And taking the business owners on the journey with us around, what are some of the posts that we've put out there? What is some of the, like I said, examples of where we featured that they haven't seen, and that has started to really get their buy-in into the type of work that we're doing in the digital space. And another interesting thing, Veli, is also when you're a business owner, it is about rands and cents, right? It's about 5 customers in my restaurant today. I've sold 10 burgers. This is my turnover. This is my profit for the day. Boom. Very straightforward. So being more comfortable, and again, as marketers, we don't really like doing this. It's not a space where we necessarily feel comfortable with, is doing ROIs. Rands. So this is how much money we've spent on this digital campaign. This is, the turnovers that was linked to X and Y campaign, and it's not always as straightforward. We did an exercise where we've involved statisticians and people that can help us to look at influences of seasonality and typically the type of product, price bands, all of that information that we would work with a team of people that could go, right, for this campaign, this is the actual ROI that you achieved. And when you start doing that kind of work and you share that with business owners, when you look at digital, your ROI within a digital space is massive. In fact, there's no other medium that comes close to it. And so those are the type of facts that I use with our partners. And I say partners because it is absolutely our franchisees, but it's also our agencies, and it's also Engine, because it then really starts landing the fact that this is the net impact of this campaign. And it also understanding brand building and all of those good things as well, but to be able to share actual numbers with them, it does amazing things.
No, that's really cool. Now, there's a question that I always wanted to ask because it interests me, and it's kind of a difficult one for marketing, but it affects marketing, right? Now, when especially your type of brand that is from the biggest towns to Ermelo and Pongola, when I drive home to Kosi Bay, Manguze, it's about 9 hours away. And I stop off, and sometimes I'll sleep over maybe in Piet Retief and wake up and stop off for breakfast in Pongola, right? Now, it's something that every brand should consider, and I think Wimpy is very good at it. And I'd like to find out what measures you've put in. We've seen people and brands like Spur go into very bad racial situations, not because the place is racist, but because there's so different cultures that meet up in that one space, which then becomes a tension. When I sit in Pongola, I'm a bit different because of the Joburg privilege that I have. Suddenly, the service seems a bit slower. Suddenly, the racial dynamics start, I start being aware of my race in that small town that maybe is not as transformed as Joburg, and vice versa. The people, as I walk in, they can feel that, okay, here's this Joburger now. There's a tension there. Now, brands have fallen into almost a trap by sheer value of you being in Ermelo or Piet Retief. You inherit your attitudes of your customer base, of your management. How do you deal with that? You know, and I haven't heard an incident at Wimpy. And whenever I go to your Pongola, which can be quite a difficult town in terms of racial relations, I've never felt that. But you find that at other brands where you walk in and it feels different. Is it intentional that you manage the race relations, or how do you deal with that? Or maybe you deal with the complaints quicker than other brands. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So Veli, it's you know, it's quite a complex, I guess, dynamic that most brands, like you say, actually face in by virtue of the fact of where they are. So I think the first thing is, in terms of where we operate, we always we pride ourselves in being, you know, part of the community, part of the fabric of the community, and I think, you know, there's something to be said about our positioning in the market, right? Which is very much about, like I said to you earlier, you know, whether you are in your pajamas or whether you are in a suit or whether you have 20 kids and they're messing milkshakes everywhere. When somebody walks into a Wimpy, that's all okay. So you know, no one ever feels like they need to behave in a certain way or they need to be somebody when they walk into a Wimpy. And it's interesting, we do quite a bit of work with consumers where this is the feedback that they give us, right? Is going, yeah, you know, I feel very comfortable being who I am and walking into a Wimpy because no one's going to judge me. You know, the table next to me, like I said, there's milkshake everywhere, and the table next to, on the other table, there's somebody working on their laptop. And actually, there's quite a lot of people that'll come into our restaurants by themselves and be quite happy to do so. And so there's something to be said about that brand positioning, which is very welcoming, right? And that positioning literally filters into every single franchisee, every single staff member that we have, because that's who we are as a brand. And you know, whenever we engage with, when at conference, when we talk about our positioning and we talk about the fact that we are a brand that welcomes everyone in South Africa. We're a brand that is very accepting of no matter who you are, and you're part of the family, right? And so I think in a big way that has contributed to people feeling more welcome, and our staff and our franchisees being welcoming to people of all walks of life, no matter who you are and what town you are, you know, because that is the message that I drive throughout the system, and we have been driving for the last number of years. So so there's I think 95% of that has got to do with how we positioned as a brand, because it's not just a consumer positioning. It's a positioning that our franchisees live by. It's a positioning where we as a brand team live by. You know, it's a positioning that our staff members in our restaurants live by, and so it is a value that we share. And that's driven really hard from a brand perspective.
No, please.
Your other question, just in terms of complaints, yes, absolutely. Like any other brand, we always, you know, we get complaints. But again, it's about responding quickly. And, you know, it's not, we don't have a process where there's a hierarchy and, you know, this complaint, there needs to go to this person, and then that will send, and only maybe by some, you know, magic, it'll eventually arrive on my desk. More often than not, something happens, I'll pick up the phone myself to a customer, and, you know, we sort it out. So there's also a thing how we are very much close to the ground, close to our customers, and we respond immediately to any issues that come up.
No, that's brilliant, and I think you guys have done well. Now, I see Mom Yvonne Chaka Chaka has joined. Welcome, Mama. We have to have a special mention. I'm sure Jacques, the next breakfast is on Wimpy.
That is amazing. Absolutely.
So now there's there's been a lot of talk around a transformation. Now, I sometimes say it's not only the agencies that need to transform, but the people that own us and pay us and are the reason why the industry is alive is the clients. What is your take on transformation?
Absolutely, Veli. I mean, it's for us as a brand, it's crucial. It's we both and there's different, like you say, there's agency, but there's also different partners involved. So there's certainly from a brand team perspective, where it is something that I drive really hard with my team, and also certainly from an operations side of the business, it's exactly the same. So it's a key priority that we drive as a brand. So internally, and then also externally with our franchisee network and our team members within the broader network. It is something that we're actively driving because it's also it is about being relevant into the future, making sure that us as a brand is representative, and that's also what makes us rich and what makes our insights and consumer insights so much better. Because as much as, like you say, agencies got to do that because it is about hitting those consumer insights, that you need a diversified team to be able to do that. It's exactly the same from a brand perspective. So if we're not diversified as a team, which we are, then we're not going to find the nuggets that we're looking for, even when we are presenting amazing work, right? It's about having my whole team around the table, and everyone's opinion matters. Everybody, whether you're a junior brand manager, whether you're the marketing manager, whether you're the marketing assistant, everyone has a voice and opinion, and that is something that I actively encourage and drive within the team. So certainly from a brand perspective, it's crucial, and I've seen that, Veli. I mean, we've had some really interesting discussions, particularly when it comes to creative and some of the work that would be presented, and then having that view around the table from a diversified team. The work that we end up with is so much richer and better. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and that I actively drive within the team. And like I say, the same with our franchisees. It's a lot of the businesses have been pretty much have been in within families. A lot of the businesses are family run, and it's kind of been handed over from generation to generation. So I think it's a balance about you getting a new franchisees on board, and also making sure that the franchisees that's been with us for a long time continue to do the great work that they do, and sharing that. It's one of the things that we drive as a brand really hard is that learning and sharing of business ideas from franchisee to franchisee. So from the franchisees, that's, like I said, that's been in the system for many years, and the brand has been in the family for many years.
Jacques, you won't believe this. I wanted to field some questions from Odette, but we've got 20 seconds remaining. Can you believe it? We've gone through an whole hour. So I'd just like to say thank you. This has been a wonderful thing.